All right, first item on the agenda, expansion, and we'll get to the Bears shortly. But Peter, I know the Commission's been working quite heavily with the federal government at the moment, and it sounds like there's an agreement for the PNG scenario.
Look, there always had to be an agreement in principle for the proposal. So then the proposal goes to the Commission. So in order for us to consider the proposal, we had minimum conditions, and those conditions have now been met by the federal government. It will go in with the other 9 bids, and they will all have to have a business case. Then we go to the clubs. They're our members. We have to show the clubs how we can do this expansion and what do we do, what the years that we do it in. And so there's a long way to go at this stage on expansion. It's early in the piece, but I'm really pleased that the federal government have provided all the conditions we wanted, and there's a really good chance PNG could possibly be one of the teams in the expansion.
If I can just say, though, the beauty about the conversation we're having with the federal government and the Commission strategy around the growth of the sport in the Pacific is that PNG is different to the other bids in that this is a once-in-a-100-year opportunity for us to take rugby league and change people's lives across multiple countries. So it's not just about the team playing in NRL competition. It's actually about using rugby league to change people's lives, to get more kids playing the sport, to get kids completing their education and thinking about what they want to do in their careers. And it's going to bring us closer together as a number of countries in the Pacific.
There's a lot of misinformation about Papua New Guinea as well, because people think that we're getting this $600 million. No, we're not, because what we're actually doing is implementing pathways in Papua New Guinea. And Gus Gould was the one that actually told me that when they took players there, kids don't normally go to school in Papua New Guinea, they just avoid it. And that's the beginning of the circle of poverty. If you don't get an education, everything else falls apart. That's the foundation of any good community. And once you take a rugby league player to a school, they all turn up. If you can encourage those kids to go to school, play sport, play rugby league, that country's could turn itself around in the next 10 to 20 years from where it is to being a major society and a really great neighbour for Australia.
So on the flip side, though, like no one will argue this isn't a good deed, but NRL is not a charity, right? And everyone will see that the $600 million is coming in. But at what point do you consider what is best for the NRL going forward, and not just the pressure that's coming from government to do the right thing by the country? Now, there are going to be all sorts of logistical nightmares with a team in Papua New Guinea, not to mention the plans to build a compound in Papua New Guinea, trying to get players over there. How do you weigh up, and when you're making your decision, you go into the clubs, how do you convince them this is the best thing for the NRL, not just the best thing for the government?
Back to where we started, the can-do attitude. If we want to do it, we can do it. And that's the most important thing.
So why do you want to do it, Peter?
Oh, there's 18 million people in Papua New Guinea. This could be one of our best pathways ever. There's an enormous amount of revenue we can grow. You've got to remember, we're going to subscription television. If you're going to subscription television, it is a poor nation at the moment. But imagine if you had 18 million more subscribers, or half that, or 5 million more subscribers. There's only 1.8 million subscribers now in Australia. So the more subscribers you can get, the more revenue the game gets. And it's a big audience. And at the moment, they are fascinated by rugby league. And you've got to look at history. And history says, in India, they introduced cricket. When colonisation happened. And who was the biggest nation in cricket now? It's India.
What about selling it to players and getting that, if you're going to be moving families there and actually making it viable for them to live, thrive and play footy at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer that, but just let me take a step back. Michael asked, what's in the best interest of rugby league? Absolutely. The Commission has never been clearer. Like, there has to be a business case. But how good is it that we're talking about expansion? Like, this year, we've had record crowds, record ratings. The fans have really responded. And because the Commission have made the tough decisions consistently over the last couple of years, we're now in a position where it is incredibly feasible to think about growth and what that brings into the game. So let me tell you, I can attest to this personally. Nothing that the Commission or the game decides will not in the best interest of our stakeholders and our game long term. And we're in this really powerful position where we can think about going to new markets. And as Peter said, finding new revenues, which ultimately we're a not-for-profit. We're not a charity, but we're not for profit. It means every dollar that the game brings in gets reinvested back into participation and pathways, and of course the elite game, the clubs and the players. There are lots of logistical challenges whenever you grow. We have done a careful analysis around the opportunities to think about an elite team being based in Port Moresby and playing. Now, nothing's been decided, as Peter said, but part of that we'll look at the Centre of Excellence, we'll look at accommodation and look at facilities, not just for the players, the coaching staff, their families. And if that all stacks up, well, then this is a great opportunity for us.
But one of the things that will attract the players, and not so much the players, but staff over there, is having a tax benefit. If we can make, tax incentive to go over there, even no tax for the first 12 months, you'll get a lot of people to go there because, some people are on 49% tax. If you can save that 49% tax, it's an incentive to go over there. And that's more for the people that are going to be working in the pathways, etc. But, some of the players, if they get that tax benefit, to give an example, in racing, all my good staff get headhunted for Hong Kong. They get paid the same, but there's a fixed 15% tax rate. And they can earn more money in 3 years than they can earn in 10 years in Australia. And they set themselves up for life. Well, this is an opportunity for players, coaches, participation, etc., people that work in those areas, to be able to earn significant money in a short period of time and set themselves up for life.
Last one on expansion, the Western Bears. Is it happening for 2027?
Look, they're definitely in the mix. They're a very professional submission, and Western Australia is certainly in our sights. And when you've got Premier Cook ringing you every day wanting the team there, he is a fanatical. I've never seen anyone as determined as him. If he puts that same passion in making the West Australian team successful, it'll be very successful.
So is that the order? Perth, PNG, and then a team either in Queensland or New Zealand. Is that what you...
Look, that hasn't been decided.
Perfect outcome?
All those, as I said, the first people we need to talk to are our clubs, our members. We need a lot more money from Channel 9. That's the first thing, because the broadcasters have to come to the party with a lot more money in expansion. Without the broadcasters putting more money into the game, well, the business case won't stack up. So it's very, very important that you add the broadcast revenues and all the other revenues that come with it for it to stack up.
The expansion side of things, it sounds like there's going to be an announcement post-season on what the strategy is, and then is it an immediate move, Andrew, to go into broadcast negotiations?
Oh, well, that's a matter for the Commission, and that needs to be decided in due course. But obviously, the reason we're thinking about growth is to maximise outcomes for our members and for our stakeholders. So thinking about how we do that, season structure, the configuration of which teams, and a number of other elements. And don't forget the growth of the men's and the women's game, the growth of Origin, the growth of the international game, the growth of Vegas, the growth of Magic Round, all of these major events, all of that goes into the mix. That's what fans are really responding to. Like this year, we've seen phenomenal results off the back of a successful Las Vegas opening round. We want to use that momentum to obviously drive a good outcome. But the timing of that, that'll unfold over the coming months.